So lots happening in Las Vegas, Nevada. Let's take the off-the-field stuff first with Jon Gruden and his lawsuit against the NFL. Explain what happened yesterday and the significance of it, if you don't mind, Counselor.
And this is a tightrope that's very delicate for anyone who comments on this business for a living to walk. I don't defend the emails that Jon Gruden sent. And you could argue very easily he got what he deserved. But his lawsuit is about his rights. And even the people who commit the most heinous activities still have rights. You don't just throw people's rights under the bus because they did something that you can point at and say, that guy shouldn't have done that. And what Gruden claims the NFL and or Roger Goodell did was carve off the emails that he sent to Bruce Allen in 2011 when Allen was working for the Washington Commanders and Gruden was working for ESPN with heinous, reprehensible content, that the league and or Goodell took those, handed them to the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal in two separate waves, trying to get Mark Davis in a position where he recognized it was untenable to continue to employ Jon Gruden, even if Davis, knowing about these emails, and privately deciding to go forward with Gruden because they were sent years before Gruden even worked for the Raiders. If he wanted to do that, he didn't have the ability to do that. Once it's out in the open, it has to change. He had to go. So the argument is they interfered, the league did, and Goodell, with his relationship with the Las Vegas Raiders and forced him out by releasing those emails. So what happened yesterday was the league tried to get the case thrown out. Judge said, motion denied. The league also tried to get the case pushed into arbitration, which I routinely call the NFL's secret rigged kangaroo court, because it is. Motion denied. Motion denied from the bench. Judge bangs the gavel at the hearing. That doesn't happen very often. That's spiking the football in the face of the party who loses. Usually the judge takes it under advisement. As I said this morning, even Judge Wapner took 5 minutes before he'd come back with a ruling. When you issue the ruling from the bench, that means that the argument that was made by the party that lost was weak. Now they're going to appeal, like they did with the St. Louis litigation. They kept it tied up for 5 years on appeals all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. The NFL desperately wants to get all of these cases into secret rigged kangaroo court, in part to keep the rest of us from knowing what comes out and what may make people look bad or look like liars or whatever the case may be. So they'll fight it. It's going to be several years, I would assume, before we even get to the meat of the case. But if it stays in court, Rich, we all are going to find out who ordered the code red on Jon Gruden. If it goes into arbitration, the chances of finding out publicly become much smaller.
So stay tuned, and this is a long game, is what you're saying.
Long game. Like it was literally 5 years, not an exaggeration. It was 5 years before the St. Louis relocation lawsuit had gotten through the threshold question of whether or not St. Louis would have to take the case to arbitration.
So, but discovery would, if reached, reveal who leaked the emails on Jon Gruden to the New York Times?
There'll be all sorts of stuff. Rich.
Like what?
Now,
what would it look like?
Well, it'll be documents. It'll be text messages. It's only limited by the creativity and resourcefulness of his lawyers. You can ask for all sorts of things in an effort to find out who sent those emails to the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. And look, the Times and the Wall Street Journal, they aren't a subject of proper discovery because they're going to protect their sources. But the sources aren't protected once you get into litigation as to who sent what to whom, who breached whatever confidentiality the NFL attached to these documents. They still refuse to publicly release the 650,000 documents. They treat these things like top secret government files, but, a few here and a few there ended up in the hands of reporters. So, yeah, we'll find out one way or the other. And there are people who think Dan Snyder is the one who did it. Now, I'm not saying he did it, but there's a small universe of people who had access to those documents, and obviously they were on Commander's server. The Commanders had access to them, so he would be a suspect as well. And in a weird sort of way, the NFL would benefit from saying, we didn't do it, he did it. And we'll see, but it won't come to that until we get past this question of whether or not the case goes forward in court or heads to arbitration.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.